pay attention to it and you won't forget about it. And they're valuable tools, but if you just go all in on something, you're potentially risking a collapse because you shouldn't be experimenting with everything.
And one of the things I had heard, and I guess I personally try to go for a plant-based compost, but I did hear the comment that if you get a manure-based compost, it's basically shit, and you're going to have shit cycling microbes. And how true is that kind of a thought?
Oh, that's another great one. I mean, that goes back to Vermont, right? So Vermont, they have thousands of acres of dairy farms that is spraying an anaerobic sludge on their fields in spring, and yet their crop is completely healthy. It has bag appeal, maybe not healthy. Let me redact that. Not healthy, but has great bag appeal. And so feeding that back to the cows and going through the whole cycle again and again and again, where's that going? Probably not anywhere good. So manures are, you need to be really careful when you play with them. It's not that you're getting shit eating bacteria, you're getting the accumulation of bad things. Some of the work I did with hemp farm last year was a gentleman had 30-year-old horse manure. And, he was like, oh my God, look at this stuff. It's dynamite. And I was like, cool. All right, let's look at it. I felt it. I was like, wow, this stuff is really interesting. And I smelled it. It smelled good. I put it under the microscope. It actually didn't look bad. I mean, it wasn't as fungally dominant as I expected it to be, or bacterial, or should I say full spectrum I expected it to be, but it wasn't bad. And so I sent it off to the lab to have it tested. And the test came back that it was like, off the charts in aluminum. And we all know aluminum is toxic to plants. And he wanted to use that compost on his fields to plant his hemp in. And bottom line is that when you have a manure situation where you have an animal eating a feed and there is a heavy metal in that feed, then their body takes in that food, strips the nitrogen, and poops out the heavy metal. So you have a concentration. So in this situation, those horses were all being fed a meal or a feed that had this aluminum in it. And because they couldn't digest that aluminum, it concentrated. Same thing that happens in cannabis when you concentrate it. You concentrate the thing you don't want. So I'm always fearful of manures, horse manure because of nematicides, because they have dewormers, because a lot of horses that are fed impure diets get worms. So basically they're being shot up with a nematicide. So if you use horse manure, you are basically ingesting a nematicide into your cannabis farm, into your soil system that you want living. Cow manures, yeah, there's bovine, there's hormones, they say they're not, but they're in the feeds now and nobody really knows because there's no testing, because there's no money in it. Chicken feed, the same thing. So if your manure source is 100% organic, goats on a farm, right, that hasn't been tilled in 30 years, fucking go for it, dude. Use that manure all day long. But if you don't know where your manure source is coming from, just remember, if you're growing cannabis, you're potentially hurting yourself by bringing something on that could contain a concentrate of metal or pesticide or anything else that you do not want to have in your uptake in your plant.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I've heard similar too with even like plant-based stuff, because you had mentioned, the municipality compost earlier, and a lot of guys kind of poo-poo on that for a similar reason. Like you don't know whose yard that came from, and what was sprayed and what wasn't, and what yard waste got entered into that. Was it treated with this or that, herbicide or pesticide, or so similar, I
All
guess.
right. This is an important question, and I commend you once again. All right. So think of it this way, right? The first bacteria on the planet got infected by a virus, and they evolved. And the next generation got infected by a virus, and they evolved. And this continued on and on and on until single cells became advanced cells, became plants, became animals. So those very viruses that we fear, corona and SARS and all these other ones, are actually morphing us, evolving us. And think of viruses as the great corrector. They're keeping things in balance. If there's too many of this organism, they're taking them down a notch, because they're there like a free radical to keep everything in balance. Well, the same thing is true with all of these things, right? So yeah, you got Roundup, you got friggin' synthetic fertilizers, but remember, the plant actually metabolized them, so it began the breakdown process. So in my mind, if you're in a situation where you have no other options, then use it, because you're basically getting your plants used to what they're going to be fed, or the environment in which they're going to be exposed to, whether it's overspray or you left house and you asked a friend to water your plants and they sprayed some fucking Roundup because they thought there was some weeds growing in it. Whatever the case may be, your plant is going to be more tolerant, and because the microbes are breaking it down each time, it's less susceptible to what I would consider harming you. Now, again, we said this last time. Look at the food you eat. Look at the water you drink. Look at the air you breathe. The cannabis plant is tested like no other plant. And if all of our food was tested this way, we couldn't eat any of it, right? So your body needs a certain amount of this shit. Your plants need a certain amount of this shit. The environment needs a certain amount of this shit because it's what it is. The planet was a friggin' fireball. There was no life on it. And how did it end up getting to be the Garden of Eden? Because of this process. So you're not going to stop it, dude. To think that you're going to be all pure, that's great. Go move up into the mountains. No electricity, no cell phones, no nothing. Do it, right? Cool. You're there. Well, wrong, because the environment's changing. Weather patterns are changing. You're always going to be exposed to all the synthetics that are airborne and things that we don't even understand yet. So, dream on your dream, Greg. But bottom line is that if you have to use industrial compost and you have no choice, figure out how to make it better. Grow some Pseudomonas. Pseudomonas break down compounds better than any other friggin' bacteria on the planet. If you have a hydrocarbon, some of the more simple, complex compounds, toxic compounds, Pseudomonas will start breaking the chain down. And as they break the pieces apart, then other bacteria can break it further apart, and so on, and so on, and so on. So again, the healthier your biological and the more diverse your biological system is that you're growing in, I don't fear the small amount of industrial compost that you use to build your first compost pile is going to hurt you. I really don't.
Gotcha. And one of the things that touched on my brain too, under that idea of adding sugars, and so I've been kind of practicing where, like, in my mind's eye, I'm adding a small amount of sugar and I'm stimulating that biology in a way that it's going to cycle nutrients faster. But the thought I had was that with the fastest way to get available carbon into the system is actually through like plant life and exudates from plant roots. So the whole idea of like inoculating a soil is great, but then there's this idea of, well, we're going to spread a variety of plants to grow in the soil, and we're going to let those plants and their individual exudates grow the biology that we need as well. And is that kind of a different view? Would you still want to inoculate before cover cropping, or?
Man, you asked some good questions. So you touched on about three things there. I'll try to keep them in order. So sugars, right? Sugars build bacteria, but too much bacteria consume too much oxygen, and therefore you go anaerobic, right? So too much sugar causes anaerobic environments, which causes soil collapse. And it takes you a long time to build that soil back up. So low sugars. Be very careful on sugars unless you really know what you're doing. The second point you made was on carbon, right? Nitrogen and carbon. So you have to understand that you need nitrogen to break carbon down, and you need carbon to break nitrogen down. So these two cycles are like totally in balance, a circle. If you don't have enough carbon, then you can't break down the nitrogen. And if you have too much or not enough nitrogen, you can't break down the carbon. So whenever you're dealing with synthetics and people put down nitrogen, there's a carbon cost to that system. That's why potting soil collapses over time, because the microbes had to steal the carbon to cycle the nitrogen, right? And vice versa. So that creates a collapsing in the soil system. That creates a depletion. And the last piece was probably the most important. And I think that, you know, wow, I got tired all of a sudden. I missed it. What was the last part of that one?
The last part was just just the idea that individual plant species will.
Oh, right. Yeah. So Gabe Brown. You guys all should look at Gabe Brown. He's an amazing regenerative agriculturist on a national scale. He's teaching classes all over the place. He talks about different types of cover crops and using them in succession and using them together to do exactly what you're talking about, is stimulate different types of plants. But again, mycorrhizae is important. If you don't have the mycorrhizae connecting all these different plants and all these different demands, then you don't have the World Wide Web. You don't have the connection. So in these types of systems, the mycorrhizae is what's working for those plant interactions on a level far greater than just their roots crossing over each other. Now, the roots crossing over each other are important, but you plug mycorrhizae into there. Now the mycorrhizae is giving each person, each plant, exactly what they want, when they want it, and they in turn trade something for someone else. So it's just everybody's bartering. Like, you grow cannabis, I grow tomatoes, he grows vegetables, this guy grows cow. We all get together and have a fest. Oh, I forgot the beer brewer, right? So we're all together as a community, but that's the mycorrhizae connecting that Ethernet. So yes, individual cover crops, diversity, everything you possibly can throw at it, the more the better. And then you watch the system and see what grows and what doesn't grow. And pay attention that certain things will grow really quickly and then die off, and other things will come in, or some will may completely die off. If they completely die off, don't use them again. But if the ones are kind of moving in or out, or one is taking over, maybe you want to cut it back a little bit. Again, you need to be the free radical, the virus, and keep that system in balance, or one thing is going to take over and then you're going to get out of balance again. But I love diversity in cover crops. I encourage potatoes, carrots, root crops, as well as surface crops, to create those macro environments on the surface of the soil.
Yeah. And so, like, nitrogen fixing cover crops, so legumes are a common one that are talked about. Some of the ideas that, well, I know they build nodules, and that's where a lot of the nitrogen is, but is that plant communicating that nitrogen to the cannabis plant through a good mycorrhizal before it's dead or while it's alive, or is that something you got to chop and drop that to make that nitrogen available?
No, it's, if you have a mycorrhizae network, that legume is trading nitrogen for phosphorus or potassium or for something else. And maybe not for the cannabis plant, but another plant in the community. So no, the nitrogen fixing system, if it's connected to mycorrhizae, is full on all the time. If there's no mycorrhizae, then what happens is, as that plant dies, other bacteria eat it and they consume that nitrogen, and then they become consumed and then release the nitrogen later. But it's instantaneous. It's nanoseconds if those two plants are connected via mycorrhizae.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of that too. So that how quick that can happen, like they can see
Mm.
nutrients travel super
Move.
fast through those networks.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, they
Did
did a radioactive isotope in an oak tree, and they dropped it on the leaf at the top. And within, I think it was like a minute and a half, that isotope had gotten to the fucking bottom. It was something insane. It was like, I couldn't believe it when I first heard it. So yeah, the pathways and the movement of nutrients, water. Um, think of it like a straw. Like you suck that straw, man, that water's coming up real quick. And I think that the plant has the same ability to move nutrients and water in the same method.
so that system that you got the opportunity to design the soil for, you were talking about Parabolic Colorado or whatever. Uh, you know what I'm talking about? The when
Yeah,
you get
parachute,
yeah. So,
parachute.
I know they're early on in their cycles, and the plants look gorgeous when I had seen pictures of them. But so the idea that we're growing this huge bush out of this soil, and we're gonna chop all that off. I mean, it pulled all the nutrients up, calcium, potassium, and the things it needed to build those cells. And we just removed all that material from those nutrients, basically from that system. Is there some process that they're going to go through to try to re-amend or keep that balance in that soil of the minerals at least, or I don't know.
Absolutely. I've encouraged them to do testing after each run. Whether they do, I pray they do. And I hope they continue to keep Chris Trump on board to do the microscopy. And yeah, if there appears a deficiency at one point, then we will re-amend. But the goal is to prevent the soil from collapsing, and to provide all the biology for 1,000 years of nutrients in those horizons. So in theory, again, theory, you would never amend it again. Once the biology was working and the nutrients were available, everything is off to the races. Now, in cannabis production, it's exactly that word, production, that causes the problem. Your goal is to push and push and push. So, yeah, at some point, there very well may be a need to top dress, and hopefully with an amino acid so it's quick, or maybe it's a slow digest like a paramagnetic basalt rock. But either way, yeah, there potentially could be a need to amend, especially if they continue to run the same cultivar over and over and over again. We know different cultivars bring up different things. So in a perfect world, you do the same thing as we learned way back when, and that's rotate your crops, right? So don't always run the same cultivar in the same bed, so that you're not stripping the same nutrients or nutrient profile or palette every time. And if you are, another way again is Gabe Brown's way of using plants to pull these minerals in from the atmosphere, and metabolize them in the profile. Some of the work I did for a friend and a customer 4 years ago was on a corn plot that was 60 years old. And for 60 years, that corn had been grown repetitively over and over and over again. And so think about the transition from no NPK to full on NPK by the end of it. And by the time he got that field, it was devastated. I mean, it was barely growing hay. So I encouraged him to spray my inoculant on the soil. First we did perk tests, infiltration tests, soil chemistry tests, all of the full battery, and biology, and realized that, okay, this is what we're deficient in. And so to continue the experiment, first we just did one biological application. We did sugar and kelp in the summer, and another biological application in the fall, and had him overseed with a bunch of different low-lying green manures, so that the hay, it would support the hay and support the soil, so keep that microcosm in place. So in the experiment, I decided that I was going to go down the road to figure out exactly what it would cost to get that soil back to zero after 60 years of corn production, and it would have been $2,400 an acre. And this was a 10-acre plot. So that's $24,000 to get it to zero chemically. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to fly. When I told him this, he fell off his chair. You know, I knew he wasn't going to pay that kind of money to do this. He's a fucking farmer, right? What farmer can pay $24,000 to fix 10 acres of land? The only choice was to go back to plants and biology to get that system pulling the nutrients out of the sand, silt, and clay that was present. There's no other way to do it. So to answer your question, no. If you build the bed correctly, and you don't strip it, and you give it time to recover, and you perfect world, you give 50% back. So half of your crop you chop and drop and grind up and put back on the soil, then you will never have to touch your soil. But if you're taking more than 50%, then yeah, at some point you're going to have to re-amend it. And I don't know what it is, and only the chemical test will tell you.
It's that law of return, right? It's
yeah, law of return, bro. Law of return.
Out of balance ever, right? No, and that's yeah. I mean, you covered so much, man. And to all the people that are watching live too, I'm not seeing chat right now, and I know our live's kind of been in and out. I've been recording this, so we are going to post it in entirety, so that it
nice.
So it shouldn't be for everybody in YouTube world there. So
yeah, no, good, dude. And I love chopping it up with you. You got an amazing mind. You're a wonderful interviewer, and I highly encourage you to keep doing this. I think you have a niche here. The questions you ask are real. I mean, these are fucking spot on, you know, prime time. I mean, everybody's asking these same questions and talking about these same things. So keep up the good work, bro, man. Keep it up. Yeah, and I'll keep plowing on my shit.
Yeah, no, and yeah, I mean, if if we get more topics to cover, like I was gonna actually steal a question from Shango Lowe, so I think it was him, but ask might have been Tad Hussey, but what is there a question that you were kind of hoping I would ask that I did not ask?
Yeah, but we got to spend half an hour on that one.
Okay.
And so let's plan to do it again next month if you want.
All right. Yeah.
And that's going to be redox.
Okay.
We're going to really talk about how to do this, because if I can spell it out in layman terms, and you don't have to suffer through a 20-hour course, which isn't going to make any sense to you, and you're still not going to get it, then that's powerful. I think this is the new unit of measurement that we really need to find, or we need to use to direct us going forward. And this is in all production, all plant production. So whether it's a food, a fruit, or a cannabis plant, it don't matter. If you take these very simple principles into play, then you will be able to find that sweet spot where you don't need nothing and everything's taken care of itself. All you got to do is just love it, water it, and pluck it. So hopefully that's where we'll go next, Paul.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it, Leighton. And,
yeah.
Definitely, dude. It's an honor to talk with you, and I really, on behalf of everybody listening too, it's such a great honor that you would. I mean, you've accumulated all this knowledge over your career and your work, and that you just would share it with all of us, and from all of us, man. I really appreciate it because I've learned so much, and I know other people.
Dude, that's why I'm here, bro. This is why I'm here, and it gets reiterated in my spiritual life on a daily basis that it's not about money. It's about getting education to the proper people so that they can make intelligent decisions and thrive, because we all need to thrive, right?
Definitely. And I know people listening, you've mentioned some of your inoculants, and I know you have Kingdom Aquaponics. Is that is there a plug you'd want to? I don't know if that's something people can order from you, or if that's not your goal to talk about that. I know that's not why you're here, but
no, I'm not a big self promoter. And I crash landed out here in Oxnard, literally 2 days after they closed the state of California down. My shop, my lab, and my manufacturing system is back in Connecticut. although I was able to bring with me a small scale manufacturing system, which I've amended pieces and parts to actually be up and running. And literally, I'm going to be up and running by the end of next week. So I'm really excited about that. So I'll be able to actually begin to make inoculant again, which I haven't been able to do in a number of months. So yeah, there's a lot of developments that are going on. As I've said tonight, people I'm working with, I'm really excited to get these tools into people's hands. It's like a new wrench. It's like the first vice grip, man. People are like, oh my God, you clamp on the bolt and it spins and you don't lose grip, right? So I'm hopefully going to be able to have these tools and make them available for people at a very reasonable price that they can literally make their own sourdough and never buy another thing again in their life. And that's kind of the direction I've been going in for a long time. So it's my honor to get to speak with you, and I'm grateful and respectful and love the conversation and the questions you asked, dude. Big ups, man. Big ups, bro.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I guess at that, man, I'll let you get on with your night, and yeah, we'll try to see about next month and see if we can line that up too. So
Nice, nice, and
because that's a topic
another level.
So
yeah, it's another level, dude, and I'm excited to talk about it too. And peace out to Michigan. Love you guys.
Thanks, man. I'll let you jump out, and I'm gonna close out with the YouTube guys. So
all right, take care, brother.
Thanks, Layden.
Bye.
Well, guys, that was it looks like we are still live, so I'm not sure how much of that got caught. Unfortunately, Eagle is still having some trouble with internets, and that's kind of the link to the YouTube live. So on my end, I did record all this. I did just say that too, but I'm not sure how that all works. I know it's on my hard drive, and we're gonna try to get it all posted up for you guys. So yeah, because he just dropped a ton of info, so there's a lot to go over there. But yeah, man, that being said, everyone, I hope it came through all right. We'll probably shut this stream down from the live, and then we'll probably jump back in with the normal rabbit hole, and kind of go from there. And I'll hopefully put it out when we get the video entirety kind of put up for everybody to view. So appreciate all you guys being patient with us and trying to watch on live if you were. Sorry it was broken up and probably not able to easily be understood, but hopefully we'll get that all remedied. And yeah, man, if you guys really appreciate the info, just maybe send Layton a message saying thank you or something, because everybody needs encouragement to stay on the path they're doing. And man, there's just nothing more encouraging than having people say that you help them. So I'm not sure how to end this live, but I'm going to shut it down and just kind of go from there. So that being said, Eagle's here, but I don't see him talking. I'm going to say what he says. And I hope you guys will go out and do something nice for somebody else, and share the love, spread the kindness, pay it forward. So peace and love, everyone.